It's about high time we got to Victory Road now, and I'm just going to dive underwater, same thing I did when going to the seafloor cavern, so that I can avoid some of the random battles on the way. So yeah, Victory Road is a neat little Pokemon tradition. It's been in every game to date. It's that really long and somewhat difficult dungeon before the Elite Four, and yeah, it's been in every generation. There was one in Indigo Plateau, there is one in Evergrande City, there's one on Suzerain Island, and there's probably going to be another one in Issue as well. I would be very surprised if there wasn't. And this generation's Victory Road can be beaten rather quickly. If you know exactly where to go, you can spare yourself many wild and trainer battles, but you also will be missing out on some valuable experience as well as some items. Of course, we're going to be checking out every nook and cranny of the place, which means it's going to take far longer than the strict minimum that's required to beat this Victory Road. Of course, if you don't know where to go and if you don't have a map, that's when the crap hits the fan, because you could spend quite a while trying to get through there. On my first time through, I don't know how many times I ended right back up where I started because I didn't keep track well enough of where I'd been, and who can blame me? There are so many freaking paths that you can explore. There's almost always a really quick path, and there's always the one with lots of detours, so we're going to be checking out everything, so it might take a while. It's definitely going to be a lot longer than in Gold, Silver, Crystal, especially since there were no trainer battles in Gold, Silver, Crystal. And one thing to note is that I'm going to need to be particularly careful with Pokemon and PP management, because there's a boss battle at the end. Remember Wally, that sickly kid that was supposed to go see his uncle in Verdanturf, and last time we met him he was trying to take on the third gym in Mobile, and I completely trounced him because he only had a level 16 Rouse. Well, this time he really means business. He's got Pokemon in the mid-40s, 5 of them fully evolved, so he has to be taken really seriously. You can't go like last time and say, oh, his team is a complete joke, I'll wipe him out. If anything, that first battle was just to lull you into a false sense of security, so that you'd arrive on Victory Road and say, oh yeah, this wimp again, and yeah, and then if you're not ready, you'd get trounced. And oh my gosh, is that Scott I'm seeing up there? I think it's him, so let's go check him out. And oh yeah, those sunglasses are really a bad sign. How did he know I was going to end up here? Well, it was probably obvious that I was headed for the Pokemon League and that this was almost a necessary stop. But come on, that's just freaking creepy, as if you didn't know that. This guy is a one crazy stalker, and yeah, he just told me he would get in contact with me if I beat the Elite Four, and that's because he wants to invite the champion to his own personal private island that's also a Pokemon Utopia. Not Poketopia, that's something else entirely, but he runs the Battle Frontier, which we're sadly going to go to, not to fight, but to visit the place, to give me an opportunity to explain the facilities. I've already said that multiple times, but still I always get a lot of people asking me if I'm going to fight in the Battle Frontier. Well, no. And now I'm putting Skarmory in my box as planned, and I also put Gardevoir in the lead because the primary wild Pokemon we're going to be encountering here are Hariyama and Golbat. Lots of Hariyamas and Golbats. And one thing to note is that you may recognize this song from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Of course, that was a remix in Brawl, a very awesome one at that. Probably one of my favorite tracks in the game, in fact. In Brawl, not here. Here, it's fairly limited because of the Game Boy Advance's limitations, but in Brawl, it's really a great remix they pulled off there. But anyway, while I'm fighting, I might as well mention that Victory Road is probably going to be the last opportunity I'll have for quite a while to do random banter, because the post-game to be honest, I will commentate on the game a lot during the post-game, as well as, of course, the Pokemon League, but there's not going to be many chances for me to do random banter during the post-game, so if there is some to do, I would be better off doing it right now, and that's why I'm going to not wait any longer to advertise the next Speed Gamers Marathon. Of course, many of you have attended the Summer of Zelda that took place last month, and it was quite a huge success, even though they didn't manage to get the $250,000 for Act Today. They still got, I think it was 20,000 from that chase contest thing that they completely dominated in like 3 days, so it wasn't completely a waste of time. Of course, just the fact that many people had a lot of fun proves that it wasn't a waste of time to begin with, even if nary a single penny was raised. But sadly, I wasn't able to... Thunder Wave! Oh, this sucks. I don't want to have a paralyzed Blaziken for the rest of the dungeon. I'll have to backtrack and heal at some point. Well, I'll think about that later, but yeah. Now, what was I saying? Yeah, I couldn't attend the Summer of Zelda, sadly, for personal reasons, but I will be at the next marathon, which will be about Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed. It's going to be for the Golf Restoration Network, and by golf, I'm of course talking about the Gulf of Mexico, which came to the forefront in recent years because of Hurricane Katrina and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And originally, this marathon was supposed to be for bestfriends.org, but they asked to be moved to the Kingdom Hearts Marathon in December because of the violent nature of the games being played in the next marathon. So this is a perfect example of why they don't do many marathons for M-rated games, because usually they get a lot of requests from marathons, and among them there are a lot of M-rated games, and the reason that comes back as to why they just plain don't do them is because charities usually don't want to be associated with violent video games. So, major props to the Golf Restoration Network for accepting to be associated with those games despite their more graphic nature. And, of course, I'm not about to forget the date and the site. The site is the same as usual, thespeedgamers.com, and it's going to start on August 20th. It's a Friday as usual, at 7 p.m. Eastern as usual. That's 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, and so on and so forth. And it's going to last for 72 hours, so this is going to be a standard marathon duration, unlike the Mario Marathon, which lasts a week, and the Mother Marathon before it, which lasted only 48 hours. Alright, so my bit of promotion is out of the way. I had been hoping to do it closer to the marathon, but as I said, there aren't going to be many opportunities to talk about random stuff past Victory Road, so that's why I'm getting it out of the way right now. Of course, there will be a reminder in the days leading up to the marathon. I'm not going to let you forget about it so easily. And yeah, for the record, between the Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed series, I have played exactly one game, and it's a rather unlikely one. It's a really old Prince of Persia games on the PC. It was one where you were like stuck in a dungeon, and you had an hour to get out of there and rescue the princess and stuff. And I never beat it. I never ever beat it. An hour is simply much too tight of a time limit. And Wally? Wally already? I thought he was at the end of the dungeon. Well, that certainly solves the problem of having to managing my Pokemon PP in order to plan ahead for that fight, because it's at the beginning of the dungeon, so I'm going to be able to backtrack to the Pokemon Center once this is done, heal paralysis on my Blaziken. So I'm going to do this fight after the break.